So there's that famous old proverb, good things come to those who wait, but a very important part gets left out of the end, but only things left by those who hustle. And I sense with what this video is about, that could not be truer. Some hit the talent wall and some don't grasp the opportunity and keep waiting for something better, only for them to then wait too long. But one guy who I want to focus on because I believe his next move will be the absolute turning point for his career, whether that's going to be up or down, is of course Carlos Sainz, or technically Carlos Sainz Jr. Now I don't know about you guys, but when I first heard that Lewis Hamilton had signed for Ferrari and then Sainz was left without a seat, I expected him to be snapped up pretty quickly. I never would have thought this period of uncertainty and waiting would have dragged out this long. And since losing out on the Ferrari seat, he's been linked to pretty much all of the grid, from Sauber, Audi to Mercedes to Red Bull and to Williams. And even now it looks like Alpine might have a go and throw their hat into the ring. And it all just seems to be taking much longer than expected. At one point, the Sauber/Audi gig was almost nailed on. It was a certainty, but it eventually just went cold. Mercedes rumours seem to have ground to a halt, but they kind of keep murmuring up every now and then. So now he's just left with Williams and Alpine as options. So it appears that the longer this whole thing is taking, the more Sainz is going to be sliding down the grid in terms of what his options actually are. And also these are options that are beginning to dry up, so it's getting more intriguing day by day as to where exactly he is going to go. Now, one thing we must consider is that a new deal for Sainz might be 99% confirmed. Almost signed and sealed, ready to go, but they're just having that little problem with that 1%, making agreements, money, all that sort of thing. It could be taking a little bit longer than expected, but once that's done, it will be announced with whichever team. But as we're here now and nothing has been confirmed yet publicly, let's jump straight in and look at why Sainz might have to settle for 2025. By the way, if you haven't already, why not click that little subscribe button below? It really helps the channel. I love the support, and also it's just great. So what do I mean when I say that Carlos Sainz might have to settle? Well, what I'm suggesting is that Sainz is still kind of holding out for that vacant Mercedes seat. And because of this, some other possibly pretty good looking drives might start to fall by the wayside. And ultimately, I think it boils down to the big difference between how Sainz sees himself and how the rest of the world sees him. And quite rightly so, Sainz sees himself as this uncrowned world champion. He wouldn't be in the position right now if he didn't. But in F1, it's very easy to get tarred with various brushes, no matter what your ability is. And I wonder as well, is he potentially asking for world champion level money and salary, despite being a fantastic driver, or at least a superb number 2 driver? The question here for the teams is the juice worth the squeeze? Now, if you look at some of the drivers who are currently backed for greatness, such as Leclerc or Norris, there is something that those two drivers just have in them visibly that Sainz doesn't. And it's quite difficult to put your finger on what exactly that is. Now, the thing is with Sainz as well, he is one of those drivers that does seem to get the job done. We saw this in Austria when he finished a fantastic 3rd place, and he's already won a race this season, so he is delivering right now for Ferrari. But perhaps what he's lacking that those other potential greats might have is it potentially age, or maybe a Sainz considered to be too much of a journeyman in today's F1. Having been part of various F1 institutions such as Red Bull, Renault, McLaren, and of course Ferrari. I mean, if he does get the Mercedes drive at this stage, surely he wins some sort of inflatable hat or something. For some reason, it does seem now to get ahead in F1, you need to associate yourself with a single institution in the same way that Max Verstappen has, or Lando Norris or Charles Leclerc. Now, I think Sainz is a fantastic and intelligent driver, but I do think despite them signing Hamilton, they're going to miss Sainz dearly. But when he's considered as a candidate for other teams, take Mercedes for example, they have Russell, who's supposed to be their guy, and they will need, of course, another driver. Now, you could sign Kimi Antonelli, and all the signs and the data shows that he would actually do a good job for the team. But for all those extra millions of euros that Sainz would cost compared to Kimi Antonelli, would Sainz really be giving Mercedes that value for money? Not that they're cash-strapped, of course, but these are just things you have to consider. And so with that, a big question is Sainz potentially pricing and positioning himself out of the market? For example, take Aston Martin. Before they had confirmed Stroll, had Sainz and his people made a strong and cooperative push towards the team, we might be seeing a Alonso and Sainz lineup for next season. And also with Sainz's Red Bull pass, surely a conversation with Christian Horner must have been had at some point, but it looks like that they're looking to bring drivers up internally moving forward, especially when looking for a suitable solution to go alongside Max. And the continuous rumours and links surrounding the new Audi team were very, very strong at one stage, but it's all gone very quiet on that front. And probably a big factor of that is that Sainz knows he would have to get through the 2025 season and possibly another 2 or 3 before Audi really truly find their feet. And by that stage, Sainz is going to be 34, 35 years old. So he really needs to kind of find success a bit quicker than that, something which is a bit more assured. And this is then where Williams and Alpine start to come into the picture. So starting with Williams, so they've stated their intentions on rebuilding and returning to winning ways, but the question remains whether it will actually happen, and does Sainz even have time for this? Will he actually see the fruits of the work that he's going to put into it? And it's the same story at Alpine. Now that they have confirmed Gasly, Sainz and him would make a great team, but there's still so much work to do behind the scenes. And is this really the kind of work that Sainz at this stage of his career really wants to do? So it's sort of like with Audi, Williams and Alpine, Sainz would give their future ambitions a sense of legitimacy by hiring a driver of his caliber. Having a driver like Sainz on board would show that they are really serious about moving forward. However, though, with Mercedes, I think the team would then give Sainz legitimacy. It would kind of be the other way around. He wouldn't need to do much work at Mercedes. I know they'd still have to try and climb back up to the top and beat Red Bull and everything, but it's not like they're starting from rock bottom again like they are with Williams and Alpine. So very little has come out around reasons for the hold-up, but I sense it has got to be down to money, and Sainz has simply got to decide which path he is going to go down. One could be to take a smaller salary, but you drive for Mercedes. There's potential wins there, podiums, and also the possibility to see out his career there as well. Like I said, he'll be paid less, but that is simply just because a Mercedes seat is in demand. Toto Wolff can afford to say to Sainz, look, just take it or leave it. And the other is more money, but you're part of a more long-term rebuild project, which in likelihood isn't going to deliver any kind of good results in the short term. For teams such as Williams or Alpine, Sainz would be such a fantastic asset because of his experience and what he could bring from also his time at Ferrari. And also considering the drivers that both those teams currently have confirmed for next season, Sainz would complement both of those brilliantly. But they must, however, be prepared to pay Sainz appropriately as compensation for dropping down the grid from a race-winning car to one that, isn't. Now, one more thing, and this could be very far-fetched, but perhaps Sainz is waiting to see what happens with Max Verstappen, because the rumours around him and Mercedes are still floating around. They're still kind of persisting a little bit. So for Sainz to commit to Williams or Alpine only then for a Red Bull seat to pop up would be a catastrophe. So perhaps maybe this whole thing with Sainz is teetering on what Max decides to do. And this goes back to what I was saying at the start of the video, where his next move will be the turning point of his career, whether that's turning up or turning down. And right now, Sainz is driving brilliantly, despite dealing with all the challenges that come with being a Ferrari driver who doesn't have a contract for the following year. And he's doing a great job in selling himself this season, but I have to say, I have absolutely no idea where he's going to end up. He is literally right in the middle of all of his options. Now, it's all good and well to keep everything open, don't close any doors, don't burn any bridges, all that sort of thing, but at some point, sooner or later, you're just going to have to commit before he finds himself begrudgingly in a green and black Sauber next season. Or the absolute worst case scenario would be to wait too long, be left out in the cold, and find himself next season without a drive completely. So as mental as it sounds, I do still think a drive with Mercedes does depend on what Max is going to do. And even if he does decide to stay at Red Bull, Sainz would then still have Kimi Antonelli to contend for the seats. So in reality, if I had to put my money on it, I would probably say he's going to end up in a Williams or an Alpine for next season. But more importantly, from what I think, what do you think? Where is he going to end up? Where will he be? What's the hold up? Why is it taking so long? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like if you enjoyed the video. And as always, I'm Paul, and I'll see you later. Cheers.